The Austin Conrad series. It's been a while since I've done one of these vlogs, so I thought I'd throw one up. Today, I happen to be a little bit under the weather, hence the porn star voice. A little bit, I don't know, got a little bit of a sore throat, which I'm going to take care of that here in just a minute. You'll see, but I actually kind of I actually kind of dig the sick voice a little bit. You know, I've I've been thinking about narrating some audiobooks, and gosh, if I could keep my sick voice the whole time, I think I think that might be great. But I'll get better soon, and my voice will be back to its squeaky self. So, anyways, today we're going to talk about Blood Out, which is the third book in the Austin Conrad series. And if you've been watching these, you know that I've done sort of not really a wrap up, but just sort of kind of a video where I talk about each of these books, the motivations behind it, kind of some of the surprises that, that hit me as I was writing them, that sort of thing. And we're going to jump into that one here in just a minute. But before we do, speaking of that sore throat, we always start these off enjoying a nice fine barley pop, and this is going to be no exception. This time we're going to do a Pugachev Royale, which is a bourbon barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout. It's part of the Barrel Roll series from my local brewery, actually just about a mile from here, Hangar 24. Great guys over there. I got some great beer, and I feel lucky to have them right down the street. And anyways, I've been a member of their Barrel Roll Club for a few years. This happens to be a 2017 vintage, weighs in at a hefty 18.4% ABV. So let's get the wax off this baby and start it up. All right, there goes the wax. And see what's been bottled up in here for the last couple years. Oh yeah, good stuff. Oh, any beer snob knows proper glassware is key. That's my Barrel Roll Club official glass. Pours a nice dark as pitch. Sucks the light out of the room. Even after a couple years, it has pretty good carbonation, even though as an Imperial Stout barrel age, it's not supposed to be that gassy. Not forming much of a head though. Let's see how it goes. That's delicious. It's a little hot on the finish, but really it just hits your palate with a flood of, dark, like chocolatey flavor, all that other beer snob crap people like to talk about, dark fruits and hints of cherry and the oak and all this stuff. Yeah, it's got all that and more. Beautiful beer, and it soothes my throat. It smells delicious too. All right, I'm going to set that aside for a minute. We're here to talk about Blood Out. So, this is the third book in the Austin Conrad series. I hope you've read it by now. And in fact, I can tell that, it's been, this is middle of March, and I launched that one at the end of November. So it's been out for a few months now. And I can tell that, sales are starting to drop off. So, most of the people who are already in my sphere of influence have already bought it. Hopefully you've read it too. But if you haven't, I hope that nothing that I say is going to be a spoiler. If you haven't read it, it might be a good idea. Skip this video. Maybe, come back to it after you have read it. Because, there's some neat stuff that happens in this book. And I don't want to spoil the discovery for you. So if you haven't read it, kindly hit the stop button and go back to your social media scrolling or whatever you're doing, and then come back to this video later. So, so yes, it's the third book in the Austin Conrad series. The most significant thing about it, this time it's a pretty thick book. The first two were novellas, 20 to 23,000 words. This one is actually 70,000 words, so it's over 3 times the length of either of the first two books. And I went into in the videos for each of those books, I kind of went over why, what happened, how I ended up with 2 novellas to start the series off, before I got to a full-length novel. And I'm not going to rehash that now, but I think that I think that the 3 books actually, I think any of them are entertaining on their own. I believe they're each a good read. Yes, the first 2 do sort of end with you wanting to continue into the next one. But they're not really cliffhangers, I wouldn't call them. I mean, I don't leave the main character, in the lurch, with the bullet about to hit him, and you got to go to the next book to find out. I don't do that, but they are kind of serialized. So they all do fit together very nicely. And one of the criticisms on the first 2 books is that they're too damn short, and I agree with that. I mean, I had my reasons. It wasn't I was trying to gyp anybody when I made them that short, but I think the 3 books together make a really nice package. And in fact, I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to bundle them up into a box set and sell them together. Sorry, that cough is awful. Now that I have a decent mic, you get all of it. So my apologies for that. But I think the 3 books together will make a really nice box set. And I think what I'm going to do, and I haven't started this yet, but because I have some other things I need to get done first. But I think what I'm going to do is write another story to go with them. I want to write a short story, and it's going to be called Blood In, and it will be sort of Austin's orientation as when he prospected into the Rattlers motorcycle club. And it'll just be a short story, hopefully. And I'm going to bundle that with the other 3 into a box set. So that short story will be the bonus for that. If you're on my email list, you will get it for free because it will be my new kind of reader magnet that I give new subscribers. And of course, my current subscribers always get the new stuff. I can't tell you when that's going to happen, though. I have a couple other commitments I need to meet first. If you're on my email list, you'll be hearing about those soon. I'm working on a collaboration with another author. That's first up, and I'll probably write that short story after that, and then the next Austin Conrad novel will come after that. But this video is meant to be evergreen, so I don't want to get too much into all that scheduling stuff. I want people that come back that see this video a few years from now. I don't want to talk about a bunch of stuff that's already happened. But anyways, let's talk about Blood Out. It's the 3rd book in the series, and it winds up that kind of that story arc of Austin with the Rattlers MC. In Blood Brothers, he discovered that, the MC he was part of, he discovered that they were into human trafficking, decided he didn't want anything to do with them anymore. Apparently he was okay with the murder and, drug running and guns and all that, but, he draws the line at the at human trafficking. I don't blame him. All the other stuff, I'm a libertarian, I don't care who smokes what, and I encourage everybody to own guns, and, I don't, drugs, as long as you're not hurting somebody else, I don't have a problem with it. But slavery, that I do have a problem with. And I guess some of my own I guess some of my own principles kind of leaked into old Austin there. I have, I have, well, depending on societal norms, I have I have questionable morals myself. A lot of things people think are wrong, I don't think are wrong. As long as you're not fucking with somebody else, go ahead. God bless you. Have fun. Do whatever you want, as long as you're not trampling on somebody else. And I think Austin's code is similar to that. Of course, he treated people that were in the life differently than those were outside of it. If you were, in a rival gang or whatever, apparently he had no problems depriving them of their life and liberty. But, if you're just a civilian, he treated you differently. And so anyways, he had in Blood Brothers is when he came to that realization that, his ethical code was no longer in line with those of the rest of the club. And of course he, ripped off his patches, told him to fuck off and hit the road. And then second book was No Time to Bleed. That was just kind of a quick vignette of, some of the biker dudes coming after him. And, he gave better than he got. And then after that, he winds up in Vegas. And that's where Blood Out begins. And there's a couple of neat things about Blood Out that I really enjoyed writing. First of all, I got to set that one in Las Vegas, which is, I'm not going to call it, a second home or anything, but I like the town as far as, cities in the Southwest. I prefer it to Los Angeles. That's for sure. It's a cool town. There's a lot of neat stuff goes on up there. So it was fun to set that part of the story, in Las Vegas. And of course, hopefully you've read the book, and as you know, Austin has basically two bases of operations. He's from Riverside here in Southern California, and that's where the club is. And he also has his business interests up in Las Vegas. And chief among those, he is the owner of a titty bar. So, with apologies to those of you whose sensibilities that might have, struck a chord with, come on, he kills people. So, a titty bar, that's not so bad, is it? So, but anyways, yeah, him and his partner, Frankie, who I loved writing about Frankie, but she is his partner there, and they've got something else going on too. Not quite sure what. And Austin and Gene, his sidekick from No Time to Bleed, they end up there, and Austin's got a doctor on call, and he patches them up. I'm not going to go over the whole what happens, and if you've read it, I'm not here to rehash it, but it was kind of neat weaving a few things into that story that I think are pretty cool. Having the doctor that can help patch things up, and he also took care of the girls in the club and stuff. I thought that was neat. It was a little bit of a commentary on the healthcare situation in this country, where I do believe that people would be better off if we just bought our own rather than relying on insurance companies. But I don't want to get off on that tangent. But anyways, so it was neat that I enjoyed that while I was following that main storyline. I also got to jump into the parallel storyline of the guys in the Rattlers, Tillman and Sonny and those guys, and what was going on back home. So there were a few chapters from their point of view, and it was really neat to have that opportunity to kind of weave some of the backstory in. And I talked about this in previous videos, how I never intended this, but the overall story ended up being kind of a weaving of Austin's story with his dad's story. And that sort of kind of happened organically, and of course it continued in this book, and came to a head. Everything sort of resolved in this book. And his dad ended up figuring heavily in in the story, as far as not only what has happened with his influence on Austin, but also his influence on the club and certain members in the club. For instance, Frosty, and his past interactions with Tillman and whatnot. And I'm not going to throw in the biggest spoilers in the book and what actually happened to Wayne. Those of you already, Wayne is Austin's dad. But it was kind of a neat opportunity to sort of throw in some curveballs and whatnot, and kind of build the story of what happened back then. What was it, 25 years ago or whatever? And while we're telling the story, the current story with Austin and his beef with the Rattlers. So I really enjoyed that, and like I've mentioned before, this whole series was accidental, and that part of it was sort of accidental too. It kind of just flowed out onto the page as I was writing it, but that was one of the coolest things I thought of looking back after I read it back. I go, wow, this is pretty cool. I didn't really intend to, for that to come out that way, but it did, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. Maybe it's kind of self-serving, a lot of it, because it kind of some of it, it's not autobiographical, but some of the themes are sort of a reflection of some of my own thoughts and experiences. And I mentioned this in a previous video, but my own sort of experiences with my own dad who died young. I think he was nothing like Wayne, and I'm nothing like Austin, but I think that dynamic, reliving that through that telling of that part of the story, was kind of neat for me, and it's therapeutic a little bit too. I'll kind of admit that, but I hope you guys enjoy it. Hang on, throat needs another soothing. I hope you enjoy that part. Now, there's a couple of other little things in there. I hope you guys hope they didn't go over your head. I had a cameo appearance by another action thriller protagonist. I never mentioned his name, but those of you who read thrillers would recognize him, and I don't know. He's been a big part of the influence of my own writing and reading too. I mean, I'm not going to say who it is and who the writer is, because I don't want to, intentionally, open myself up to any kind of, stealing material. But I never mentioned the guy by name, but he, I wanted to put him in there as just sort of a tribute. Basically it's a guy Austin picked up on the road back from Vegas. Gave him a ride, and I enjoyed writing that, so I hope those of you who get the reference enjoyed seeing it. A couple other cool things, different settings. I've heard from a few people, a few of my readers who actually live in California, in Southern California, that kind of appreciated that some of the areas they're familiar with are featured in these books. And I eventually will be writing books that are set in more exotic locations. But I thought it was fun to write these set, in the familiar areas, the areas that I know, the less glamorous, the seedy underbelly, of inland Southern California, which is, already not that glamorous. I mean, we're kind of right next to LA and everything. And, people don't really, if you're not from California, you think of California, I mean, other than the wacky politics, if you think about anything else, it's just, it's, it's just beaches and, glamorous cities and stuff. But no, we're, we have an inland section, with normal people with normal lives, and the gritty side of life, and we're not all a bunch of liberal commies out here. There's just normal people, just like you guys, with normal problems, and we got trailer parks too, and homeless people and all that stuff. So, but I thought it was neat, kind of setting that story in this area. Like I say, there's not a lot here that's noteworthy compared to the some of the big places with big tourist draws. But I think that was a neat exercise to to let the location be part of the story, but not let it kind of overtake the story. Like if you're say you set like one of my heroes, Steve Barry, his stories are all set like in the Vatican or something, these very famous places, and and the setting is really as big of a character as his main character, Cotton Malone. And I love reading those and learning about the areas, but I didn't really have that with this, and so the story had to stand on its own without that. But despite that, I think we did a pretty good job of making the area interesting for those that don't know the area, and for those that do, hey, it's cool. Hey, it's there. My hometown's in a book. So, after Austin gets back to Riverside from Vegas, there's some more stuff, and then the story kind of has its climax out in the desert, and those are also some areas that I know fairly well, going off road and camping out there, and it was fun to kind of use those settings in this story. But one of the most challenging things about this story was the interaction between Austin and Frankie. Now, she's and of course she's there when he gets to Vegas, and he sees her briefly a couple of times. He takes care of a problem for her. Well, it's actually they're partners in the business, so he has to go and mitigate a problem with this fella named Marvell, and actually that was a fun scene to write. I've heard from a few people that I don't know, that one kind of jolted them out of their seats, but good old Marvell, he's this fella that that ran awry of of the club, and so Austin had to go right that wrong. But anyways, between him and Frankie, she manages the club that they own together, and they have kind of a relationship on the side. I don't know really how to put it. They really care about each other. I guess it is physical. They they get between the sheets once in a while. I don't do any of that. I don't write about any of that stuff. But it's kind of there, and it's an interesting dynamic between the two. It was an opportunity to weave a little bit more depth into his character. Actually, and a little bit of character flaw too. He's kind of this knight in shining armor, but at his core, he's, especially when it comes to women. It's funny because he reveres women. He loves them. He protects them anytime he can. That's just that was sort of the whole gist of this series. He owns a titty bar. He loves the female form. He's a creeper just like anybody else. loves to check out a nice rack and whatnot, but underneath it all, he's scared of women. He's kind of, he doesn't really know, he knows how dangerous it is, or it can be, to, to go all in. And I think, that could be, one of his character flaws. And, it kind of has a weird effect on his relationship with Frankie. And, I don't write romances, and I don't want to get into that too much of that interaction with her, but I did want to use that as just sort of a way to humanize him a little bit more, his relationship with her, and also, be a chink in his armor. And, she's both part of his strength and his weakness. And, she's a little bit, she's strong too, and she's pretty much will do anything for him, but she's getting a little bit tired of the, of just being the, there for him whenever he wants. I mean, she's getting a little, she wants him to shit or get off the pot, basically. And so anyways, that was fun stuff to write. I love Frankie. There will be more of her in future books. I don't even know if I should mention this, because I may still do it. Well, no, I won't mention it at all. But I was toying with the idea of making her a tragic character. But I don't want to kill her. I don't know. I may at some point, but I don't know. I would be agonizing, but I don't know. If I get to the point in this series with Austin that I really need to motivate him into some serious psychological ass-kicking shit, I might have to use her. I hope I don't, but we'll see. So anyways, that's about all I have to say about the book. I don't want to go through everything scene by scene. It does wrap up that story with Austin and the Rattlers. Tillman and the rest of those guys are dealt with. I'll go ahead and say it now. Most of them are dead. There's not much left of the Rattlers after that. Our friend Frosty is still there, which again, I'm hoping those of you that are watching this have already read it. So, where does he go from here? He will, he does have, Austin does have sort of a job hanging out there that has been hinted at. He's got some stuff he needs to do with his cousin Hank, and he'll get to that. But I might leapfrog that. What he needs to do with Hank is actually part of Hank's story, which I haven't started writing yet, even though I have sort of plotted out the first 4 books in his story. And, and I've been dropping hints about it throughout these books. But when Hank is, when he's on the phone, telling Austin he needs to come out to Frisco and San Francisco, and people from San Francisco hate it when you say Frisco, by the way. But, he keeps waiting for, he wants Austin to come out there and help him with something. And when he does, and it will take place in the timeline, it'll be fairly quickly after what just happened in Blood Out. But I'm not going to write that book. I'm not going to write that book for a while, because that book is the 4th book in Hank's series. So it'll take me a while to get to that. So we'll just have to leave that hanging out there for a little bit. The next Austin book will be leapfrogged past that, because it'll be his own experiences. Now that he's done with the Rattlers, the rest of the books don't have to be Motorcycle Club books, which is good, because in the search engines I get my stuff mixed up with all the motorcycle club romances, and it's kind of, I don't know, it sucks on all the sales lists, all the top 100s on Amazon and whatnot. Just about every category I'm in, I'm flooded out by all these bad boy romances, and just because they have motorcycle clubs in them, somehow my book gets lumped, or they get lumped in with my categories. So just because you got a bare-chested guy with tattoos and long hair on your cover of your romance doesn't mean it belongs in, doesn't mean it belongs in pulp thrillers or vigilante thrillers. Come on, ladies, put those romances where they belong. So. But anyways, he'll still have his motorcycles and everything, but they won't be MC stuff moving forward. It's going to be kind of like Jack Reacher stuff, where, each book, he either drifts into town or something happens, some wrong needs to get righted, and, he'll be kind of the reluctant hero, trying to leave the lifestyle behind, but trouble seems to find him. And, I haven't started writing it yet, but I do have kind of the basic outline of the next Austin book ready to go, and I think it'll be pretty cool. It'll be a little bit different than the ones that the stuff you love about him will still be there, kicking ass and taking names. So I'll leave any news for that for later. But anyways, that's where Austin is headed next. So that's about it. If you have any other questions about that book or any of the books, go ahead and feel free to leave a comment, drop me a line. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, whatever you got. Links are all on my webpage. And I enjoy your feedback, and I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the books. And that's it for now. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.